Gentlemen and members of the public, who I can see there's several of tonight. Thank you for attending. It's 7:15, and so it's time to start our annual town council meeting. I need to remind you, as you can see at the top of the screen, that we are recording this meeting, and this meeting will be. Can I interrupt,
Chairman? Are we having the annual town meeting, or is it the annual parish meeting? Just for the record.
Let me just check what my agenda says. Thank you, Councillor Giles.
Parish.
Annual parish meeting. The next one is the annual town meeting. That's correct? I always get confused. The next one is where we choose a mayor. Tonight is the nice meeting where we report back to residents about what we've been doing this year. I get to hand out the mayor's charity checks, albeit virtually. And at the end of this session, if you hang around for long enough, you can ask us anything you like, I think, which would be interesting to see. So not you, Councillor Johnson, you don't get to. It's only for members of the public, unless you want to tender your resignation now. No.
Do we have to vote on this, Chair?
I don't think we can vote tonight.
We are all members of the public this evening.
Oh dear.
So that's correct, Councillor Chapman, you are.
The heckling started
already. Wine and cheese afterwards.
Settle down now.
Yeah, the heckling started already. So I should note the meeting's been recorded and that we will be publishing this meeting on YouTube at a later date for the public to view. So your participation here, by staying here, you're giving us your consent to publish that on YouTube. This meeting is normally a very fun meeting. It normally involves alcohol and snacks, which we fortunately can't do tonight. But unfortunately, we have to start this meeting with a moment of sadness, because this week we heard of the death of His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh, who, as I'm sure all agree, served our country with the utmost dedication and distinction. He was a much loved member of our royal family, and I think he's going to be sorely missed by the whole of St Neots and the whole of the country. So I'd like to start off this meeting out of respect to him with a minute of silent contemplation in his honour, beginning now. Thank you very much. And as is customary, if anybody can remember what customary is in these circumstances, I will be writing a letter of condolence to Her Majesty the Queen on behalf of the Town Council and on behalf of the whole town. OK, so let's get to the agenda proper then. Let me just switch screen and find it. I can't find it. One more second. OK, so agenda item number 2 is an interesting one. It's to confirm the minutes of the annual parish meeting held on the 16th of May 2019. Now, that's perhaps each annual parish meeting was supposed to approve the minutes or receive the minutes of the previous parish meeting. You might note that May 2019 wasn't a year ago, it was 2 years ago, because unfortunately, last year, we didn't hold an annual parish meeting because meetings were suspended because of the start of the coronavirus pandemic. So this is the first annual meeting we've had in 2 years. And so, Deputy Town Clerk, were the minutes distributed to everybody? I know I saw a copy of them.
No, Chair, they weren't. They're normally read out at the parish meeting because they're normally quite brief. So
all right, let me get them and read them out then.
So members of the public can benefit from hearing them as well.
So, 2 years ago, we had a welcome from the town mayor, who welcomed everyone present to that year's parish meeting. We received the minutes of the meeting from 2018. We had a report on future developments in the town from the town mayor, and the mayor gave his report. Back then it was Councillor Chapman. He handed over £5,000 in cheques to local charities, and his charities were Red Balloon, Strong for Sansom, Coffee Pot Memory Cafe, Sue Ryder, St John's Hospice, and Three Pillars Feeding the Homeless. And those were the minutes from 2019. So as you can see, this is going to be a similarly brief meeting with a brief agenda. So the next item on our agenda is a report to receive an update from the Deputy Mayor this year on the council's activities for the year. So I'm going to hand over to my Deputy, Councillor Simonis, who's going to present what we've been up to this year. Rob?
Thank you. So good evening all. And I will endeavour to stay with the brief theme, but this has certainly been, I mean, the term unprecedented has been bandied around a lot over the past 12 months, but it very, very much has applied to the council and to the staff team that support us as well. The business of the council has only been able to carry on through the dedication, commitment and flexibility of everyone who takes part in anything to do with St Neots Council. The first challenge that we faced back at the beginning of this civic year, which roughly coincided with the first lockdown, was about actually how we were going to go about doing any business. Meetings have always been face-to-face, but following a change in the law to allow it, we managed to make the move to online meetings. And more recently, we've also started making those meetings available on YouTube. So please do go and check out our channel. Sounds a bit trendy to say that, but you know, it's all part of making our meetings and our engagements as accessible to residents as possible. Other than that, we focused on a number of things this year. So the pandemic response has been massive. And aside from the move to online meetings and remote working for the members of staff who are able to do so, the council's given out a total of around £70,000 this year in grants. And a big chunk of those has gone to organisations and causes that have been supporting our residents through the pandemic. So some examples of that are the St Neots Community Support Group, Three Pillars, as Stephen's just mentioned, have benefited previously, but their work has been especially applicable this year. Two local residents, Mr and Mrs Smith, who put together a case for 3D printing PPE at the height of the shortage, and they produced thousands of pieces of equipment for the NHS to use. And also Diamond Hampers, who were an organisation who put together food parcels for those who found themselves in real dire straits and needed it. Closer to the council's own operations, the Priory Centre has been adapted to be COVID secure to allow hirers to return at the first possible opportunity. And most importantly, it's also been transformed to be used since February as a mass vaccination centre for local residents. And I'm sure many of people on this call have taken advantage of that service and have not had to travel further distances as a result. We've also done a lot of work to support and grow the farmers market and support our local businesses through the Christmas High Street initiative that we ran in December time. So this was in the lull period between the second and third lockdowns. But the Christmas Lights campaign was an initiative where we granted money to local businesses that allowed them to dress their shop windows. And we gave out a prize to Gilbert's Butchers for the best dressed window. It meant that we were able to just inject something a little bit more into the high street. It was a difficult time, as I'm sure we all remember, but we just gave it that. We're able to support giving it that extra bit of festivity through local businesses. And on that theme, we still managed to have a COVID safe light switch on, which Stephen carried out and was live streamed. Street entertainment was provided on the days that we were allowed to do that, and everything was done by the local residents and the local businesses to really try and make Christmas as much as it could. We held 2 Christmas markets, which in turn built on the momentum that had really started earlier in the year around the rebranded farms and craft markets, and as a result of that, we now have about 20 stallholders who make a regular attendance there. And that was equally helped by the fact that half the Market Square car park was closed, since it's now become the whole car park, but earlier in last year it was half the square car park. Initially as a COVID response, but it would then really went a long way to help those traders expand and make more of the weekend markets. Then finally, kind of looking forward beyond the COVID time, which hopefully we're going to be making an exit from soon. The Town Council's been supporting with local market research about what local businesses want and need, and that will support them in their growth in 2021 and 2022. And so far, we've had 165 businesses participate in that. One of the other major things that the council was involved in at the end of last year was the HDC's Future High Street Fund bid. So this was a bid for a fund of about 12 million quid into central government, and that money is going to be put towards a range of initiatives that will directly affect the town, and that's going to include things like the renovation of the old Falcon, improvements to the Market Square and the High Street, and an updating the Priory Centre, amongst a number of other things. But the Town Council was pivotal in inputting into what those items were going to be and putting our weight behind the bid that HDC was submitting. And we're going to continue to work very closely with them next year as these projects start to come to life. We also last year declared a climate emergency for the town because we felt it's an imminent topic, probably more imminent than perhaps other councils are taking action. So certainly locally, we blazed a trail on that one. And just there's been a number of things that we've been able to do since that, although it came sort of in the middle of last year. The operations team have purchased 3 electric vehicles and a couple of electric mowers as part of their renewal programme of older equipment, and we're installing electric charging points at the operations depot. We have signed off a number of enhancements to our community centres that will help them reach carbon neutrality, and that includes putting solar panels on the Eaton Centre, plus a number of other things, and we will be delivering those through the coming year. And what we aren't able to reduce from our operations, we're looking to offset with the planting of around 600 more trees and bushes. And again, that work started despite the lockdowns in the past year. And then finally, for some of our smaller and younger residents, the council have invested in new and updated play equipment in 3 of our existing parks. Plus, we've also allocated funding to provide a new fully inclusive play area in Brick Hills, which will be hopefully delivered in the next year. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But this project has been an ambition for a number of years, and it represents a first of its kind for St Neots and for the surrounding areas. So it's been great to get the final seal of approval on releasing some funding to make that happen. So in a moment, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what comes next, but I did just want to pause here and just take an opportunity to thank the staff for all of their efforts in the past year in what I've said have been extremely challenging and uncertain circumstances. And I have to make, she won't like me for this, but I have to make a particular call out for Karen, who's our Deputy Town Clerk. So not only has Karen had her own responsibilities, of course, but she's also needed to take on a number of the clerk's responsibilities over the past few months to cover as well. So on top of everything, I just wanted to call out her as a particular person, but I am thanking all of the staff. So I just want to thank you all for your resilience, professionalism and what you've achieved.
Sorry, Jean. Hello? Yeah, that was.
You're right, Barry. I will move on. So looking into next year is obviously the next question of where we're going to go over through 21 and into the beginning of 22. So the council has a strategy. A summary of that will be available on the website shortly, and it builds on the work from this year, and it sets out a number of things that we will want to achieve in the coming year and beyond. Not all of these are going to be 12-month projects. Some of them will extend out further than that, but they fall under a number of broad headings. So the first one that's really important to us is accountability. So we want our local residents to know who their councillors are, what we do, why we do it. We want meetings to continue to be as accessible as they have been over the past year. And we want to be held to account for decisions that are being made and how money is being spent. We are here to serve the residents of our town, and we want to make those decisions and the ways of working as visible to everybody as we possibly can. We also want our councillors to do that in the best way that they possibly can, and we want to focus on keeping specialist training up to date. We want to learn from other councils and what practices they're putting in place as we all navigate the, again, hopefully, post-COVID world and the changes that the past 12 months has brought. This May, we're also going to see the first elections to our newly formed youth council, and Stephen might want to elaborate on this a little bit more. But this is a new body that's going to bring a really different perspective to the priorities for the town, and we've had some really great engagement from local schools and organisations in support of that already. The next one, we will continue to support our high street. Clearly, this town would be nothing without its high street and its local businesses. And a big section of that will be supporting the delivery of the Future High Street Fund and working alongside HTC. But we also recognise it's going to be a very difficult time for many local businesses, and we're going to work to support them however they need us to do that. We'll continue to act on the climate emergency. So we've set a target with our own operations of striving for carbon neutrality in 2030. But we've also set up the Net Zero initiative, which is working in partnership with a local carbon neutral specialist who are actually providing all of their time to the council for free. And through that initiative, we'll also work with residents and businesses on reducing their emissions and striving for their own carbon neutrality as well. And you can find out more information about that if you go to neotzero.org. So that's neotzero.org. And we're going to continue to roll out electric charging points as well. And hopefully through that, we will incentivise the uptake of greener transport, and we'll be part of promoting greener solutions wherever we can. And then finally, we want to make St Neots the best place for people to live and visit, and in doing so, celebrate our own town's history and culture. So we're going to go back and review the neighbourhood plan, which some of you will be aware of, but that's quite a hefty document that was approved at a referendum in 2018. But again, we find ourselves in a slightly different world from that one back in 2018, so we will work to review and bring that up to date. We're going to continue to reflect the diversity of our town, and Councillor Johnson does a lot of work locally looking at people with different needs and supporting those through accessibility where we can. And touched on the new inclusive play equipment earlier, and delivery of that through this year is going to be a really solid example of where we are bringing this place to life. We will continue to support the St Neots Museum. They do fantastic work for residents and particularly for schools, both today, and we want to be able to extend that into the future. So we'll continue to work with them. And then finally, we're going to promote the town as a tourist destination and continue to work with St Neots Aquatic and Leisure as they move forward with their plans to build a splash park. So as I've already touched on, we're not going to achieve every single one of these in full this year, but we're going to work as hard as we possibly can to make as much progress in all of them as we can. And it's going to require continued hard work from all of your councillors and all of our staff too. And I just want to close off by thanking all of our residents, particularly those who've made the call this evening, for their support for the town's ambition and for the past 12 months. And just a reminder that any resident is welcome to come and speak with their local councillors, and you can get their details on the website. Or of course, town meetings and committee updates. They're all open to the public, all the agendas are published. And as I say, we want to be as transparent and open as possible. So thank you for your time. Stephen.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I want to thank you as well, Rob, for all the hard work and dedication you put into getting that strategy together. I think Councillor Thorpe, during his year as Mayor, put a lot of the early pieces into place, but I think you've done a really good job this year in putting that together into a coherent strategy that we can operate with for the coming, hopefully, coming councils, not just the next council year, but the next council that's elected next year will hopefully use that strategy as their guiding principle. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen now because I've got some slides for the next section. So can you all see, can anybody see my screen?
Yep.
Yep, good. Okay, so this is going to be the Mayor's update. So I was elected as Mayor by my fellow councillors in May last year in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, which means, as Rob's just alluded to, we've had quite an interesting and different year. The first day, as soon as I was elected, I got a call from Debbie Davis, and she asked me to state my priorities for the year. And the three things that I came up with was, number one, I wanted to help the town bounce back from COVID. Now, I think back in May last year, nobody could have imagined that a year later we'd still be in the midst of COVID. But I am confident that we've done the right things by the town, and that as the COVID starts to lift now and we start to look to a return to normal life, there's lots of things in place that's going to help the economy of the town boom. I'm really, really confident of that. I've been involved with lots of meetings with business leaders in town, and I can see, starting with, in fact, yesterday with the opening of a new restaurant on the high street, just how much passion there is in town for getting that market square back to being the cultural and economic hub of our town. So that's exciting. The second goal I set was that we were going to get a strategic plan together. And again, Rob's just mentioned that. I think we have got a strategic plan together, and that's going to be something we can work for in the coming years. And the third thing I said I wanted to do is as I've only been a councillor for 3 years, and before I was a councillor, I went to a few council meetings, and frankly, I found them intimidating. Not because everybody wasn't friendly, but going into meetings in the Priory Centre with this group of seemingly very experienced councillors can be quite intimidating. And so one of the things I wanted to try and do was to open up council meetings to the public, to reduce the mystery, to have people talking about what was happening in council meetings outside of the council, and make the whole thing open and accessible. Now, in some ways, coronavirus has helped me in that a lot, because meetings have moved online, which means that people can sit and watch the meetings from their front rooms. As you've heard, we're also going to start, we're starting to publish our meetings on YouTube, so you don't have to even attend the meetings anymore. And one of the nicest things that's happened for me this year is to leave a town council meeting and log onto social media and see screens full of people commenting about what's been happening in the council meeting, because that's a level of engagement we've never seen before. So on those 3 years, I think those 3 criteria, I think we've been quite successful. I just wanted to explain a bit about what the role of mayor is, because I'm sure some people don't quite understand. So there's kind of 3 main parts to being mayor. The first, and perhaps the most important part, is being the chairperson for council meetings. You can see that I chose a picture of somebody holding gavel. Perhaps I'm going to be the only mayor in St Neots history who never got to touch the gavel, because all of my meetings have been online. A typical mayor will have about 12 meetings to chair in a year. Because of the coronavirus pandemic in the early days, we were meeting every week. So I think the next meeting will be my 23rd as chairman. And I'm particularly proud of the fact that only on one occasion did I go over time, and even though it was only by 10 minutes, and I'm blaming Councillor Chapman for that, even though it probably wasn't his fault.
Yes, it was.
It was his fault. The second, so when I was elected mayor, I've got a full-time job. So, and people said to me, you're not going to have time to do all the civic duties. Now, the reality is, in the year we've just had, I've only had 2 formal civic events to attend, and both of those were remembrance events, the November Remembrance event and the VE Day Remembrance event. So that's the only real times I've worn the chain as a civic event. At civic events, I've tried to make up for that by getting around the town and meeting up with business owners, meeting up with the public and talking with people, engaging with people in social media. So I've had a really, really busy year, but just not in the traditional way. And the third kind of main thing, which is a bit I want to talk about now, you can see a picture in the bottom left-hand corner of Councillor Giles during his year as mayor. And one of the things which the mayor, one of the nicest things that the mayor gets to do, is to raise money for charities, choose some charities and then raise money throughout the year. Now, that posed me with an immediate problem, because most of the ways that mayors raise charities is through a set of events that happen. So on top left-hand corner, you can see the Mayor's Golf Day with Councillor Thorpe, my predecessor, receiving a cheque from fundraising at the Golf Day. We have the Dragon Boat Festival, which raises lots of funds. And also we have a Mayor's Ball, where you get to raise money by drinking champagne and eating prawn sandwiches. Now, I'm really good at drinking champagne and eating prawn sandwiches, but I didn't get the opportunity to have any of those. And so I had a problem, is how was I going to raise any money for my charities? I've got 4 great charities, and I'm not going to talk about them now because I'm going to talk about them at the end of this section in a bit more detail when I give out the money. But I thought, well, how am I going to get money to support these guys? I really want to do it, but there's nothing available to me. So originally I was going to run the London Marathon, and the London Marathon got cancelled. So I came up with a crazy idea to walk the Ouse Valley Way. And some of you are probably gasping now and realising this is going to descend into kind of my holiday slide section of the annual meeting. But if you'll bear with me, I walked 150 miles, and I just want to talk about it for a bit. So you can see on the map here that the Ouse stretches from Northamptonshire to where it enters the sea in King's Lynn. The Ouse Valley Way is a pathway that runs alongside it. It opened in 1990. It wasn't originally 150 miles away. It opened in St Neots. The St Neots to Erith section was the first. It was only 26 miles long. And as I'll explain during the slides to follow, that's still the best section of the whole thing. By 2004, it had been completed along the whole length, so from Surreysham in Northamptonshire to Kings Lynn in Norfolk, at about 150 miles. Originally, it was managed by individual county councils, but of course, with funding cuts, sections of it have fallen into disrepair because they don't have the funding or the incentive to keep it up. And the fastest time anybody's ever walked the whole or run the whole thing in it was 9 days. So I came up with this crazy idea of trying to walk the whole thing in perhaps less than 9 days. The picture here you can see is from the original press release in 1990, a group of children walking. I don't think they're walking from Erith to St Neots, but this is them, I guess, crossing the bridge at Godmanchester. So yeah, so it's been around for a while, but not many people have walked the whole thing. There's a better map of the whole thing, so you can see from Northamptonshire. So it starts in Northamptonshire, it goes through Buckingham, Milton Keynes, Newport Pagnell, Olney, Bedford, St Neots, Huntingdon, St Ives, Ely, Downham Market, and Kings Lynn. So one day I started sketching on this map, and I split it up into, knowing the record was 9 days, I split it up into 8 sections, thinking I'm going to try and do this in 8 days. I didn't know if it was possible. This next question was, when was I going to do the walk? Because here's a map or a graph of the river levels of the River Great Ouse throughout the year, and you can see that from January to April it was going to be too wet. There was a risk that the river might flood, and from November to December it's going to be too wet as well. And we saw what happened to the Ouse this December when it completely flooded. So it couldn't be. The only possible window I had was between May and October. And if you've ever walked on the Ouse Valley Way, you know there's another obstacle, which is between like June and the end of August. The whole thing gets covered with nettles, which left me with like a gap of May, September, October. May had already passed. And by the time I got started, I ended up walking in the last week of October because it was a half term and I could have some support. So I was right at the end of the possible window and basically risking that it was going to be wet, possibly flooded and muddy the whole time. So when I set out, I didn't know I was going to make it. So this is one of my favorite quotes from a guy who runs the most famous ultra race in the world. And it says, if you're going to face a real challenge, it has to be a real challenge. You can't accomplish anything without the possibility of failure. And the thing about this walk is from the very first day to the very last day, I woke up every day thinking that I probably wasn't going to make it. And the reason why I thought I wasn't going to make it is because top left-hand corner, you can see muddy fields. There was a high possibility it was going to be covered with nettles still. Every single day, there was a possibility that a tree would be down and would block the path, which doesn't seem like a massive obstacle, but sometimes the path's really narrow. And if you're doing a 20-mile day and have to take a 3-4 mile detour because you can't get past a tree, that's significant. And I didn't know if the river was going to flood at any time, especially downstream, it's very prone to flooding. And so I kind of accepted every day that perhaps I wasn't going to make it. So here's a picture of me and my wife Charlotte starting at the King's Head pub in Surreysham, where the Ouse Valley Way traditionally starts. The middle picture is I walked 150 miles. You walk 150 miles, 150 yards from the pub, and you reach this sign pointing to the Ouse Valley Way, pointing towards a stile, and you can see immediately that the stile is overgrown with nettles. And that was kind of indication of what it was going to be like. You kind of imagine the Ouse Valley Way is going to be a nice path. And in reality, it isn't. For the first 3 days, I think on the first day there was 68 stiles. The left-hand corner is indicative of kind of what they are. This one's completely overgrown with brambles. Middle picture, you can see 4 stiles with a 5th stile in the background. And the right is me clambering over a stile. I'm not the most agile of people. On the first day, I got over 66 and 68 stiles and then tripped and put my hand in a thorn bush and so did most of the walk with thorns in my hand. And it's just not very glamorous. That's the picture on top left corner is the first glimpse you get of the Ouse when it's no more than a little stream. And basically for the first 3 days, it was walking through farmers' fields, walking past angry looking bulls and cows, and generally having to quite navigate because there wasn't very well signposted. You had to find your way as well. But we got through almost the first 3 days until we got to the outskirts of Bedford and reached something called the Bunyan Trail. So for a while through Bedford, the Ouse Valley Way joins with the Bunyan Trail, and I was excited because I thought this is going to be the end of the muddy fields because this is a proper recognised walking path. And within about 2 miles of walking along the Bunyan Trail part of it, I passed those bulls in the bottom right-hand corner, and the Ouse gets very narrow and very close to the river. And there's a picture of grass on the top left-hand corner. It's not a very good photo, but it looks like normal grass. But unfortunately, when I put my foot in it, my foot disappeared and I went in it. It was like a swamp, and I ended up in my knees in this swamp. Now, I'm not sure of how many of you have read The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan, but one of the key scenes of that is called the Slough of Despond, where the hero ends up in a swamp. Now, the left-hand picture and the right-hand picture are probably exaggerations, but the middle picture is kind of where I was for about 20 yards on my hands and knees, crawling through a swamp with my boot filled with mud. There's a picture of me when I came out, and you can see I was almost in it to my waist. My shoes were filled with mud. I phoned my wife and said, "Can you come and pick me up? I can't do this anymore." And she came and picked me up, and then spent the whole journey home complaining that I smelt like cow poo, because I did, because I think it probably was cow poo. And kind of because my boots were so wet, I had to put my spare boots on, and after that my feet were covered with blisters. So the first 3 days, if you're ever going to do the Ouse Valley Way, the first 3 days I would describe as mud and stiles, and not very exciting, and not very beautiful. The second 3 days, starting from kind of outskirts of Bedford through to Erith, are really nice. So because of the incident with the mud, I got a bit behind schedule, and my friend Anthony woke me up at like 5 a.m. next day. And so the next day from outside of Bedford to St Neots was a 26-mile walk, the longest walk of the whole thing. And there's a picture of me arriving in Market Square and hugging the day column, absolutely exhausted with my feet battered. I'm sorry, I should have warned you about explicit imagery. This is a picture of my feet taped up after the first few days, and there wasn't, by the end of it, there wasn't an inch of my foot that didn't have blisters on it. So that it was really, really painful walking at this stage. I'd originally envisioned this was going to be a solo expedition with me, but with the exception of the half a day when I fell in the swamp, I had people with me every single day, and by the second half of the trip, I wasn't even really cognizant of what I was doing. There was a time in the fens when I looked up at my friend Anthony and said, "Why are the clouds moving so fast?" And he said to me, "There aren't any clouds." So I was on the verge of hallucination. I was completely exhausted, and I couldn't have done it without people guiding me and dragging me along. This is the section from St Neots to St Ives, or I think onto Holywell. This is the first section of the Ouse Valley Way that was opened, and also it's the best section. And what I'd like to do, part of the reason I wanted to do this, I wanted to also promote the Ouse Valley Way and the Ouse as kind of a walkable path. And what I would like to do is recommend that anybody who's listening to this call today, in April or May, has a go at walking up to Huntingdon and perhaps getting the train home, because it is a beautiful walk and it's really, really worthwhile. And there's some beautiful views along the way. So the second, days 4 and 5, from maybe St Neots to Holywell, beautiful riverside trails, really enjoyable. And then you enter the fens. And now, if you watched the boat race last week, there was lots of commentary about the featureless landscape of the fens, and lots of people in the fens were saying, "Oh no, it's beautiful." And I can confirm that the fens are not beautiful; they are featureless. And it was just, it's about 60 miles of walking on top of these river embankments. This is a particular picture where we had no way of going past. We had to walk past these bulls. Earlier in the walk, I would have been frightened. By the time we got here, I was too tired to care. So we just ended up walking through these ball fields, rescuing us without any kind of sense for our safety. The whole thing, the rest of the walk this is exactly the same. Here's another picture. The picture on the right is where we'd entered this section of the bank. We'd had to get through an electric fence to get into this field. We had to dodge bulls to get through the middle of it. On the way out, the gate was locked, so I had to climb over the fence. And so I don't particularly recommend this section. It's kind of samey. There are some beautiful sections like the abandoned church on the left. And so, yeah, days 4 and 5 are a slog through the fens. And so here's a picture of me arriving in King's Lynn with some of my support crew. I did this is the trip, so sort of 17 to 26 mile days most days. And I finished on the 9th day with a rest day in between. Hunts Post did a very nice job of covering up, and I got a letter from the chairman of the Ouse Valley Trust commending me on my achievement. And I mentioned before, the fastest time it had ever been done is 9 days. Well, I did it in 8 hours, 8 days, 5 hours, 7 minutes, which has been recognised as the fastest known time for completing the whole of the Ouse Valley Way. That sounds more impressive than it is, because I don't think that many people have ever tried to walk the whole thing. But I'm hoping that perhaps some riverside runner this year will look at the challenge and try to complete even quicker. I think a good runner could do it in maybe 2 or 3 days, or maybe even a good walker could do it in maybe 5 days. But I'm really proud of that achievement. The whole way around, I had the feeling that the town was behind me. My aim was to raise £5,000. And every day I was walking, my phone was pinging with new updates. I got quite emotional for a while. And in the end, the walk raised about £7,400 from 288 donors in the town, for which I'm really, really grateful. I had to choose a target of £5,000. When I left, I didn't know if I could raise £2,000. So I'm incredibly grateful to the town for all those kind donations. Which brings me on to handing out the cheques, or the virtual cheques, to my chosen charities. So this charity shouldn't need any introduction to any of you. I think everybody's heard about the fantastic work they do in the town. They're called Three Pillars Feeding the Homeless, and they do a great job of supporting homeless people. I've had the pleasure of going out with them 3 times this year. You can see in the picture on the right, Mick made me go out wearing my chain, doing door knocks. So one of the things they do, they don't only support homeless people, they also support other vulnerable people in the community, and they have like a regular round where they drop off nice treats to elderly people. And so Mick made me wear my mayor's chain, knock on old ladies' doors, almost all of whom had a go at me and told me I wasn't doing enough for the town. So I got told off as I gave them Greg's sausage rolls and donuts, which was fun. I think these guys are an absolutely fantastic example of the community spirit in St Neots. I love going on trips with them. I think they constantly do a fantastic job. And so from my mayor's charity, I'm going to give these guys £2,000 this year. Who do we have? Anybody? Is Jed here from Three Pillars?
Yeah, Stephen, I'm here. Thank you on behalf of the Three Pillars. St Neots, both the town council and you as mayor have been just great supporters of ours, and we're eternally grateful. As you know, we also, as well as feeding the homeless and dealing with vulnerable, we support IDVA, which is the Independent Domestic Violence Agency, by moving people to safe houses. So we really appreciate the support you've given us personally, and the parish council and the town of St Neots, and we're really, really proud to be associated with it. So thank you.
Thank you, Jed, and thank you to all of them. I mean, there's so many volunteers involved with this, and I'm proud to be a volunteer with you guys. I've been busy being mayor. I've only managed to get out with you 3 times this year, but when this is all over, I'm proud to be a volunteer with you guys, because I think what you do is fantastic. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
My second charity, when I announced it, was perhaps controversial in some parts of the town, but I wanted to do something for young people in the town. Anybody who's been to Riverside Park will have noted we've got one of the country's best outdoor skate facilities. All the way through lockdown, both lockdowns, even when it was supposed to be closed, it's a hub for young people in the town. Sometimes skating gets an unfairly bad reputation, but you know, if one thing is lacking in St Neots, I think it's things for that kind of older, younger people to do, and I think the skate ramp is a perfect example. Unfortunately, during the skate park is maintained by HDC, but it's a big, expensive structure, and I think in recent years it's fallen into a state of disrepair. And so an impressive gentleman called Sam Curtin has started a while ago a group called Revamp the Ramps, whose idea is to bring back the skate park to its full state of being one of the best facilities in the country. I've met with Sam a few times. I'm really impressed with what he's trying to achieve. And what I want to do is I want to donate something to young people in town. I couldn't think of a better place to do it than to give £2,000 to the Revamp the Ramp scheme. Sam, are you here? Do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, well, thank you, Stephen. On behalf of the skating and riding community of St Neots, I would like to say a huge thank you to you, Mayor Stephen Ferguson, for that massive, generous donation and the continued support of the skate park. That money is going to be a big step towards getting the rest of the surface of the park back up to spec, and once that's completed, I'd like to start getting events back down there like I did a few years ago. So thank you.
And thank you, Sam, for your leadership and all the hard work you do. I think there's often a problem with antisocial behaviour which is associated with the skate park, but not from the skating community. It's people who kind of latch onto the sides, not really skaters. And Sam, there's a group of people like Sam who were young men who ascribed being on the skate park to basically saving them. You know, it was their youth, and it's a fantastic facility. And so they've done a good job of trying to keep that antisocial element away. And I think we all need to work together as a community to make that back into a facility that the whole town could be proud of. So thanks, Sam, for your leadership in doing that. No Third charity is so one of my first, when I was a councillor, I've only been a councillor for 3 years, and for the first year I was pretty quiet. But the first thing I kind of got involved with is Councillor Derek Giles pushed the inclusive play park project onto me. We had a lady called Caroline Reddy who came to the council and said she wanted to put a disabled swing in one of our parks, which is a great idea. I mentioned that I walked 150 miles. If you were a young person with disability in St Neots, you'd probably have to go 75 miles in either direction to find a play park which you could use. And I think what we wanted to do, with what Caroline wanted to do, was originally build a swing. But after talking to Caroline and with Gordon, with Mike van der Kerko, we decided to increase our ambitions a bit more, and we founded a charity called St Neots Inclusive Play Park Foundation, the intention of which is to build an inclusive play park for young people in St Neots and act as a tourist destination for other families with disabilities from around St Neots as well. And we want to build one of the best facilities in the area in the country. And so we set up this charity to raise funds. I've been part of that charity. And it's been a difficult couple of years, obviously, since we were founded. The town council was just given £45,000 to kind of put the start of that play park in place, but we're still raising monies. And so I'd like to also give £2,000 to the St Neots Inclusive Play Park Foundation. And is Caroline here? Can't see my screen, so maybe she isn't. So I'll receive that check on behalf. Oh, Gordon, would you like to say anything about the Play Park Foundation since you're a member of the charity?
Stephen, if I may, I don't think Gordon's here. Caroline is here. I can see
Should we give Caroline a second? I can only see my screen, unfortunately. Caroline, would you like to say anything? Maybe she can't unmute herself.
I don't know if I can do it for her. No, it won't let me.
All right, that's fine. I'll receive that check. So
hello.
Hello, Caroline.
Sorry. Hi. Sorry, technical hitch there. Sorry, that's Stephen. Yeah. Yes. I'm here. I made it. So, yes. No worries. Yeah. I heard obviously what you were saying about the play park and that. So, as you say, difficult couple of years and that getting up and started, but hopefully we'll be able to make some more progress forward with that soon.
And I want to thank you for coming to the council with your idea and inspiring us. I mean, the £45,000 the council's awarded is part of your vision. So thank you for coming to us. And it's another great community initiative and one that I'm proud to be a part of. So thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Mike. And thank you, Gordon, as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen.
Fourth charity, the fourth of my official 4 mayors charities was the Ouse Valley Trust as well. I just shown you an extensive presentation about the condition. So the Ouse St Neots is sometimes called the jewel on the River Ouse, and for me, it's the heart of our town. I'm not sure. I honestly recommend that you all take a walk up towards Huntingdon on the Ouse Valley Way, because you get a different perspective on the whole town. We used to be famous as being a river resort. Unfortunately, as I've said earlier, the Ouse Valley Way has fallen into disrepair. It's not very well signposted. And so last year, I think a community group called the Ouse Valley Trust was put together with the idea, since the county council has no longer maintained the Ouse Valley Way, of maintaining the section from St Neots through the Huntingdonshire section, basically. And for me, I thought that was a really worthy activity. I think everybody needs to enjoy and experience Ouse Valley Way. So I'm also going to make a £2,000 donation to the Ouse Valley Trust. I don't think we've got anybody here, have we, tonight, Karen, from the Ouse Valley Trust?
I haven't seen anybody, but I'm not au fait with all the members.
No, I'll have a call with them and hand that check over personally. They've already got some plans to put some new signposts, to design some new signs for the East Valley Way, so that money is going to be well spent. So those are my 4 original charities. There is also a mayor's, what's it called? Mayor's allowance. So the mayor basically gets an £1,800 allowance to fund some of the civic events that he or she attends through the year. Because I didn't spend any money this year because it didn't go anywhere, I've decided to donate that money to 2 more charities. Well, I used £300 of it to top the money up from the Mayor's Walk to £8,000, and the other £1,500 I'd like to allocate to 2 more charities. So the first is a charity. When I was elected mayor, hardly didn't even exist. They came into being during the coronavirus pandemic. They've given me an incredible amount of help during this year, and the community obviously a great amount of help. But there's been a number of times when as mayor I've been stuck for something to say. That the most prominent time was after the Buttercup Avenue fire. That morning I was asked to go on the television news and be interviewed by a journalist, and honestly I didn't know what to say, because the town council's got good intentions, but I didn't know how we could practically help. So I phoned up the St Neots Community Support hotline, and I had a phone call. Within like 20 minutes I got a call back from Lynette, and we talked about all the things that St Neots Community Support was already doing to help that family, and it made that task much easier for me. And I've just seen it time and time again. So the coronavirus pandemic has been an awful time for the whole town, but one of the few really positive things to come out of it is St Neots Community Support. They came about to be because of coronavirus, but now they've got a new purpose for being a community support organisation. Yeah, I'm really proud of these guys. There's somebody else, once my time as mayor is finished, I'd like to help out with and volunteer with. The pictures you can see here is they did their 1,000th task, I think, volunteer task, which I think that was probably in early March. Picture on the right was me and Claire pretending to move a bed. They didn't let me do any real work, of course, because I'm too important, and I was wearing my mayor's clothes. So I'd also like to give a special award from the mayor's allowance for £1,000 to St Neots Community Support. I can't see my screen. I know that Catherine is here.
Yeah.
Is anybody going to receive that check?
Hi, Stephen. It's Andy Shaw here.
Hi, Andy.
Chair and founder. Hi.
Thank you, Andy.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks for all your support. You've really been a good voice for us, and on the St Neots Facebook page as well, group. And yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, you're welcome anytime to come on board with us.
Just thank you for everything you've done for the town, because as I say, there was times when I was completely stuck of what to do, and you guys were always there. So I'm very lucky to have you around during my year as mayor. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, everybody who's volunteered. There's loads of people involved in those 1,000 tasks. So I want to say thank you to all those people. And the final check I'd like to give out is a group of people who I've been working with, who are Pride in St Neots, whose aim is to put on the first LGBTQIA plus Pride event in St Neots. St Neots has obviously got a large LGBT community, but they're not particularly visible, as is the case in many small towns. So when I was elected as a councillor, one of the things I wanted to do, there's not even a gay night in any of the pubs, you know. And as I heard from so many people who identified as being LGBT, who would have to go to Cambridge because there was no visibility at all in St Neots. So during the last year, I got together with my friend Daniel Laycock, and we started hatching a plan to put together a Pride in St Neots event, which has grown into the most incredible committee of people, some of the best people I've ever worked with, to be honest. We were going to put on a Pride event this year, didn't quite happen. Well, Daniel, do you want to take over from here? Daniel, I'd like to give Pride a check for £500 to start us off. Do you want to explain what the plans are quickly, Daniel?
Yeah, I will do. And thank you, Stephen, obviously, for your generous donation to Pride in St Neots. So obviously with a lockdown, with the pandemic, it's difficult to kind of put anything on physically at the moment. So we are hoping to do something later this year, from working with different prides across the county to put on a virtual pride, which will be coming out with more details hopefully in the next few weeks. We are hoping, as you already said, that there's not a gay night or an LGBT night in St Neots, for which we are hoping to put on sometime later on this year or early next year when the weather's nice, because obviously it would be great to kind of like get the community together, and obviously yourself, Stephen, as town mayor, even now or later on, with all town councillors and even town staff, you'll be more than welcome to come along to the first LGBT night that we put on in the town. But yeah, we've got a lot of plans to do, a lot of work to do over the next 12 months and for the next 5 years, so we can kind of bring St Neots onto the map for LGBT inclusivity.
And a Pride event in 2022, in-person Pride event for sure. Yeah.
We're planning it now.
Yeah. Good. I hope so. And so I'm really proud to be involved with that. It's another exciting community group of people and something else that's come about this year. And so proud to be involved with that as well. So thank you, guys. I wanted to just finish off with some personal thanks. I used to sit in meetings of the town council and look up at these boards in the Priory Centre. And when I was bored in the meeting, I'd always sit and read through these boards of previous town council mayors or previous chairman of St Albert's Urban District Council and Rural District Council, and actually be a bit intimidated by all the names on the board. And if you walk up the stairs in the Priory Centre, you can see a picture of some of my predecessors. As you can see, are all very impressive figures in our community. So being elected as a rather inexperienced and young, well, not young, I'm nearly 50, but a youngish kind of mayor, was kind of a hard task. I'd only been a councillor for 2 years. I didn't know all of the ropes. And so I couldn't have done it without lots of support. So I wanted to, so Rob's already thanked Karen and the town staff, which I'd like to add my thanks to. When I was elected mayor, I kind of expected that I'd once a week be in the office eating biscuits and drinking coffee with the staff, which is what I wanted to do. But the reality is I've never met most of the staff in person this year because we've all been stuck behind our computer screens. I did get a chance to go out and meet the ops team, who don't get enough credit in the town, who keep the town looking beautiful. Everybody's got a good word to say about ops team. They're a great bunch of guys, yeah. So proud to be associated with those guys. But thank you to all of the staff who've worked so hard during a really, really difficult year. Thank you to those guys. Thank you to all my fellow councillors as well. And I can honestly say that every single person on this slide has helped me during my year as mayor, particularly the ex-mayors like Derek and Sandy and Barry and Gordon have always been happy to give me advice, tell me when I was pointing in the wrong direction, and to support me throughout. So every single one of the town councils, it's a really supportive group of people, and I couldn't have asked for more support. But there's 3 people in particular I want to thank, and it's these 3 guys. I get lots of credit for all the stuff that I've done this year, but the truth is lots of it is down to these 3 guys as well, who are working behind the scenes with me. They're my fellow St Neots East councillors, so Rob, my deputy mayor, Caroline Gregson and Ben. We're constantly in communication every day into the evening, talking about all the stuff that's going on in town. Again, if I make mistakes or do the wrong thing, they tell me. They've been the best friends and the best advisors, so I'm really grateful to them. I couldn't have done it all without any of them. And the final person I want to thank, I'm getting a bit emotional actually, is I was lucky enough this year to be married to Charlotte. And people say to me, how can you do all of this? And the truth is I can do it all because Charlotte does everything, helps me behind the scenes, and gives me the time to do all of this. So thank you for Charlotte. At the start of my mayoral term, I got some pretty horrible abuse on social media, which is difficult for us to deal with. And together we've got through it together. I just wanted to say thank you to Charlotte. And thank you to the whole town for all the support you've shown me this year. The one thing I really want to do as mayor was to stand on the stage at the Christmas lights. I'm not going to have the opportunity to do that, but I've had fantastic support everywhere I've been. I've only met smiling faces, so I'm very grateful to everybody. So thank you to everyone. And that's the end of my report.
Yay!
And so I'm happy to open the floor to the members of the public. The way we usually do this is by getting people to put their hand up on Teams. So if you'd like to say anything, if you'd like to ask a question of any of the councillors or me, or like to make any comments, please feel welcome to. Councillor Johnson, pretend to be a member of the public. You can go first. Yeah. Not Councillor Johnson. I'll call you Delphine tonight because you're not a councillor tonight.
Yeah,
No, I just wanted to say a massive thank you, obviously, to all member staff, but big thank you to you, Stephen. I think you've been an absolutely amazing mayor. I am so proud to call you my colleagues, and I know that the work you've done also across social media to get the member of the public, you know, part of what we're doing, it's been amazing. And I feel very sorry for the mayors who are going to come after you, because I think you set the bar very, very high. So I just wanted to say a massive thank you for doing the honor to St. Neots of being the mayor.
It's been the biggest honor of my life, so thank you, Delphine. Any other comments?
Hello, Stephen.
Hello. Hello.
It's Barry.
Hi, Barry.
Hi. Listening to your epic 150-mile walk and what you had to go through, I was welling up. It's so much so, I think I'll put my hand in my pocket and give you some more money. I think you've done wonderful. And I'd like to say it was very heartfelt what you've just said. And I think all the councillors felt the same as me. And I think we were privileged to have a really decent mayor. And thank you very much for the effort you've put in this year. Thank you.
It was a team effort, and yeah, you all played a part in that.
I know.
Councillor Giles, the better of the Councillor Giles, my favourite.
Oh, thank you, Chairman. I'm glad you recognise that. I want to add my thanks. You have done a fantastic job. Having been there myself in my own right and beside my husband twice, I do know what a tremendous amount of work has to go into that. And how you've done fantastically this year, because as you said earlier on, you haven't had all the opportunities that we had to raise money. You know, you've had to work jolly hard in a different fashion to get that amount of money, and well done. What more can we say? If you think you've had a busy year this year, wait until after COVID, mate. You won't have your own weekends for the whole year, but you will enjoy every minute of it. It's a fantastic honour. It's a huge opportunity to meet lots of people, do things, raise money for all your charities, and represent our wonderful town. You've done a good job, and thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Caroline Green.
Yeah, echoing what most people are saying, you have probably had the most bizarre, unusual year ever. You have really stood up to everything. Like you say, very bad start with the social media problem. You have won so many people over. Nothing against any of the other councillors and mayors. They've been brilliant. But you have brought us up to date, up to the modern times. You brought in a new style of being a mayor. People like it, they are engaging, and it's been phenomenal. So thank you very much. And please stand another year. Thank you.
Well, I have to chat to my wife about that.
Yeah.
At last, a member of the public, my friend Catherine. Catherine?
Yeah, I was just, I know that you've been told by central government, the diktat has come down that no more online meetings, get your arses back in your town halls. Yes, that's my opinion as well, Stephen. What plans have you got to try and deliver a hybrid version in the future where we can have town meetings but still have people attend virtually?
Well, so I was shaking my head because I think a year ago there was lots of resistance amongst councillors to having online meetings, but I think we've won most people over, actually. If you look at the attendances of councillors and of the public from before we had online meetings to this year, I mean, there's either it's because I'm a very charismatic chairman and I only finish late once, or because people could watch their meetings from their in front of the TV. So I think it was a lot easier to do, a lot easier to attend, and I think it's really helped things. We always knew that at some stage we'd be going back into the Priory Centre. But one of the things we voted on recently is that we voted to put all of our meetings online on YouTube, which means we have to have some sort of recording capability there. And I think it would be a pity. I'm really disappointed in the government that we can't continue having online meetings for now. I'm very worried for the future of all town councils in June, because I think there's going to be a great reluctance to meet in person until the pandemic is completely over. We're going to investigate having hybrid meetings. Hybrid meetings are quite difficult, though. I think I've always found it quite difficult when people are in a room talking and online talking. It's difficult to include everybody. It's going to be a new challenge. But yeah, I think we're committed to carrying on. I mean, in the first year of me being a councillor, I travelled a lot for business, and it was unfortunate that I sometimes had to miss meetings because I was out of the country, and having that opportunity to attend meetings always. I haven't missed any meetings this year. I think it's a fantastic ability. So I'm very keen to continue online meetings. I'd like to see all the committee meetings online, to be honest, and perhaps meet in person for full town council meetings. So yeah, I'm just disappointed at the moment. There's a lot of uncertainty because we don't know. We've had this meeting is early. The mayor making meeting is going to be early as well, because we don't actually know if we're going to be able to meet again after May. And I'm hoping the government's going to resolve that. Anybody else want to say anything on that?
Well, yeah, I can tell you, and certainly I completely agree. I've always been a big, if you can work from home, there's massive benefits to allowing people to be remote for most of the week. Yes, you do need to do face-to-face stuff, but you don't need to do it 5 days a week, 52 days a year.
No. And I think the whole world has come around. Everybody's used to doing Zoom meetings. Before, last year, lots of people had never been to a Zoom meeting, never been to a telephone conference, and now everybody has all of the time. And we can see in the attendance rates from the staff, staff are always there, for the councillors and from the public as well. So yeah, it's a really good observation, and it's something which is a great concern. But yes, we are committed, I think, to carrying on at least in a hybrid sense. So there will always be an online component, I think. The town crier has his hand up. I've only seen you ring your bell once, Ian. It must have rusted up by now, mate.
Yeah, just wanted to. It's been a shame we've not been able to do some stuff together this year. But just from a town crier point of view and a personal level as well, to thank you for being a good friend when I needed it this year. And to yourself and all the rest of the town councillors, a big thank you for the amazing work you've all done for the town this year, especially in some very difficult circumstances, and groups like St Neots Community Support coming together when the town needed people to come together, and boy did people come together when needed. And it is a real effort of community spirit this year. And I just want to thank you all for what you've done for the town, what you're doing for the future, and agree with the comments about the online meetings. I do think it's a shame that they're not going to, well, at the moment, they're not going to change the legislation to allow it to carry on, which I think is a real shame.
Yeah, because I want one.
Jack. But yeah, just a thank you to you all, and hope to see you all soon in person one day.
Well, and I think St Neots has got a great community town. I've always known that there's everything. The community does everything in St Neots. It's amazing, and whenever we need them, they're there as well. And there's so many examples. You've just started off your own Walk for Men's group as well, which is another fantastic community activity. We're always involved in Parkrun together as well. So there's so much community as well. It's amazing, yeah. And so thank you to you guys for all you've done as well. I appreciate it, Ian. And we're going to have to find other opportunities from you and me to dress up together in public and go out dressed up in silly costumes. We can do that anyway, can't we? When the pubs are open.
Just weekends, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else like to say anything, or shall we end the meeting? Grace.
May I make a comment?
Oh, Grace, can Grace had a hand up first, Colin, and I'll come to you. Is that okay?
Okay.
Grace?
I'll be quick.
Yeah.
Having to use my phone because I broke my laptop. No, I suppose it's just sort of reiterating the points that have already been made. I've grown up in St Neots. My family have been here for about 400 years. We don't go very far, and I moved away for a few years, and I came back mainly for friends and family. Thought the town isn't brilliant, but it's fine. It's where everyone is. But over the last year, I think particularly at Christmas with everything that was going on, like I've genuinely never felt prouder of my town. And I know so much of, like, say, the community response to, so I think someone put in the chat, it was biblical. We had the fire, we had the flood, we had plague, we had everything. And I remember particularly when those calls were coming in about there were houses that were going to be flooded in like the middle of the night, and everyone's like, get who's got sandbags, who's got cars, who can, you know, shovel, whatever it was. And I know there's so much behind the scenes that obviously the town council, that the councillors do, and obviously, you know, we've all seen what Facebook is like, and it's absolute worst. But for all for everyone that it gets a bit shouty and whiny and repeats the same criticisms over and over, and usually, you know, without any basis, just there are so many people that really are, you know, very proud of what you guys do, and just and really appreciate everything that you do as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Grace. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the history work you're doing as well in the town. Another great community initiative as well. So thank you. Colin.
Thank you, Stephen. I'd just like to say that I've thoroughly enjoyed your report tonight. I found it very interesting. My only disappointing comment is that although I knew a little about your walk, I think you could have involved us councillors a little more. Maybe you could have got Delphine to do a couple of miles, and myself would have done half a mile, and Barry would have stood and clapped. But I think you could have got us all a bit more involved. So I hope that next year you will get us more involved. And I sincerely hope that you stay with us for another year. That's all I want to say. And thank you very much indeed for being a very nice mayor.
Thank you, Colin. One of the things that makes me not want to be mayor is the thought of doing another walk, because I'm not walking 150 miles away. There's no way I'm doing that. If it's back to Champagne,
I've done something similar. I used to have a boat on the Ouse, and we went from Bedford right through to well, actually, we went out of the Ouse into the Wash and across to Holland. But I'm not expecting you to swim behind me all the way.
No, not unless you chuck some beers off, Colin. Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate it. Delphine?
Sorry, yeah, no, there's just one thing I forgot to say earlier. Is also I wanted to give a big shout out to all the shop owners and, you know, retailers in town and things like that. I think they have been amazing, and, you know, and very, very looking forward to enjoying, you know, my lovely meals and, you know, go back shopping and things like that. So big shout out to all of you guys out there who, you know, who have put your heart there. And I know how hard it's been. And I just wanted to say it's been very much appreciated.
It's been a really difficult year, and lots of all the businesses have struggled. Some more, some haven't made it. But, you know, talking to Alex Hughes on a daily basis almost, and seeing what's happening in the business community, being involved yesterday, I wasn't allowed to be involved in the formal capacity yesterday, but seeing what happened with the Griddle and Grind place opening on the high street and the amount of community support, I think people are just desperate to go out and support local business. So I think there's been a complete change in perspective, and I think when we come back, I think that the town's going to thrive. I think getting rid of the cars from the market square has been a huge thing. Really happy to see Cafe Nero back again after a short absence as well, because that was a hole in the middle of Market Square. If we can get the Falcon up and running again, I think it's going to be an absolutely brilliant place. I think compared to all the other market towns, we've got so much more going for us. We've got the river through the middle of our town, and we've got a beautiful Market Square. And I think that there's so much enthusiasm at the moment. And so I think we're going to reverse several years of decline. It's going to be exciting for a few years, I think. So, yeah, that's a good observation.
Yeah. Shop locals, guys.
Yeah, definitely shop local. Claire, how are you?
Hello. Excellent, by the way. Thank you for the great presentation. You know, I've been a big fan of everything that you've done for this year. And now we've got a lot of engagement for the first time since in the 12 years that I've lived here. I haven't seen the public as interested in how everything's going. So my question is to all of you councillors. Are you going to start up your local surgeries again? Are you going to be more contactable? Are you going to be more engaged with the people in your ward? Because I know that things kind of died down a bit and there wasn't that facility anymore. So I'd like to see in the coming year those surgeries starting back up and face-to-face talking to people. Is that going to be happening?
Does any other councillors want to answer on surgeries? I'll tell you what I think, but
Yes, I will, if I may, Chairman. I couldn't find the hand. Yeah, having been at it for a long time, if you'll pardon the expression, we have tried surgeries in the past. I've given up Saturday mornings or Saturday afternoons, made myself available. Not just me, I hasten to add, other councillors as well. And we've sat there for a couple of hours and not one single person's come up, although they have been very well advertised. So I think there's lessons to be learned there. Yes, if we're going to carry on doing surgeries, they need more notification so the public know where we are and how they can get hold of us. But they've always known, if they go on the website or look on the notice boards outside the council offices, all our names, addresses and telephone numbers are published, and we are always contactable from our residents. So something to bear in mind. Thank you.
Yeah. From my point of view, sometimes I think I've made myself too contactable because everybody contacts me on Facebook all the time. I got messages and stuff. For me, I mean, well, I've never had any surgeries, but no formal surgeries. But every other Saturday, I go to the farmers market and try and walk around and get stopped by people and talk to people. So yes, I'd like to do that, but not stuck in a dusty committee room. I'd like to do it at the farmers market or in the Riverside Park, or I mean, I love meeting with people, meeting with residents for a walk, or actually I've been elected a running mayor as well, so I'd like to go for a run with some of my residents as well. So Claire, if you want to come for a run with me, that's always open if you want to. Christine, did you have anything to say?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Sandy said. I too would spend an hour on a Saturday morning waiting and no one would turn up. I did that a few times. So, but I will say that I do find residents are quite proactive. I do get a lot of phone calls or emails from people. So I think those residents that do want to contact the local councillor in the ward that I'm in, they do have a look to find out how. And I do get regular contacts from people. So, but open to trying surgeries.
I mean, I think we have to update, don't we? Because I think we've proved this year with the council that in-person meetings are not as effective as online meetings. So, you know, people won't turn up when they've got to go to an intimidating room somewhere, but they might dial into a Zoom meeting. So I think we have to update. Barry, you've got your hand up as well. First time of the evening in it, Barry. It's been that's a record.
How do we silence hecklers? Stephen, I think you made a mistake earlier on, because you did say being mayor was the greatest honour of your life, and I think probably marrying Charlotte somewhat trumps that. But
that's true. That is an error. That's why I had to feign the emotion.
I say it now before you get. Well, you're already at home, aren't you?
Yes.
You have been a great mayor, and there's been a lot of engagement, and I think a lot of new directions in the past year, and I think that's very, very important to bring the town council more into line, especially with the younger population and a lot of new people coming into St Neots as well as us old fogies. I'd like to. I know the St Neots Community Support have already thanked you for your donation. We had a trustee meeting last night, and we were talking about how we would raise funding, and I don't think anyone was aware that you were intending to do that. So that will go an awful long way. I think that you will have a very busy year when COVID comes off, because you'll need to get your dancing shoes on if you're mayor again for another year.
I need to get my karaoke.
Anyway, thank you, Stephen. Oh, sorry. On surgeries, why don't we just put a stall on the farmers market?
I agree. That's the best place.
I agree with that.
Place as well. And it would as long as it doesn't deter people from going to the farmers market, of course. I was going to say it would be it might have the opposite effect, but that's a good point. Thank you, and thank you, Barry, for all the support you've given me. You've been constantly coaching me through this year as well, so I appreciate that as well.
The other thing as well, we talk about the other thing that's coming is the Youth Council as well. I haven't had a chance to speak about that, but we've been working with a young group of people. We decided we didn't want us to decide what the Youth Council was going to look like and how it's going to be elected. So just after Christmas, we recruited a group of, I think, 12 young people. We co-opted them on and formed a steering group, and we've been meeting every other week, and these young people are absolutely brilliant. I think they'll embarrass most of us councillors with their debating skills and with their charisma. So Claire's son is one of those as well. So I think that the Youth Council is going to be another big step forward. We've had previous youth councils. We've learnt from the mistakes of the previous youth councils when those people are all the same age. So we've got a range of ages, and I think that youth council is going to be ready to start formally with elections in May. So I'm really excited about that. So I'll be reporting back to town council at the next meeting. Anybody else like to talk? Councillor Derek, go on. Go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say regarding the surgery. I think my colleagues have said quite a lot already, but the only point I was going to make too is sometimes also residents need to know that they can come to us because we don't bite, you know, we're normal people. Obviously, we can't do everything, you know, there's things we can't do. But I think if people have a problem, I think they need to be able to come to us and not just, you know, say things are not happening and certainty is rubbish or thing like that. Because as often say, you know, I'm not everywhere. My eyes are not everywhere. So guys, if you see something, you know, you can always come to us and say, I've noticed that. Can you help? Because, you know, I may not have seen it myself because I don't walk that path or I don't, you know, go that place. So it's about communication and working together from, you know, the public and the town council, the councillors working together to make St. even better.
Yep, thank you. I see my second favourite, Councillor Giles, has his hand up.
Oh, thank you. I'll remember that.
Get a room, the two of you.
Yeah, going back to the surgeries, I have to agree with the better half that, you know, we've tried surgeries in the past, and to be honest, you know, I think they're just a waste of time. Whether we get the advertising wrong, I don't know. The best way I found was when I was mayor was, as somebody else has already said, was a farmer's market, and you have a stall there. You have a stall there, a charity stall there, and invite councillors to come and help you, and you will get people coming along, looking at the market, obviously, hopefully spending some money, hopefully spending the time with you, and that's where people interact. They really do. So work on that principle.
Karen, could you note that down then as an action point for us to investigate the having a stall at the farmers market as the first step in re-establishing surgeries, because I think that's quite a safe environment. It's an outdoor environment as well, and with COVID concerns, I think it would be a good place to do that. Barry?
Yes.
Thank you, Karen.
Yep, no, I agree. I was there with Derek when he used to hold those stalls at the market, and it was very positive actually. So we'll see if we can get you booked in with one.
Excellent. Barry?
Yeah, yes, thank you. To make it a bit more interesting, can we get the St. Neots stocks out with a big bucket of rotten fruit as well, and get the councillors to sit in them?
I'm busy that day, Barry.
Now, I'll be early on as a fundraiser. I'm sure I could raise lots of money to get people throwing things at me for sure. Maybe a bit less by the end of this year than it was at the start, but we'll see. Christine, is that a legacy hand? I think it might be. No more hands. Any more questions? Well, this is also a lovely amount of engagement from the public as well, so thank you. Anybody else want to say everything, or shall we have an early night? Right, thank you very much then. Thank you very much everybody who attended. Thank you for listening to my slideshow. Thank you to Rob for his presentation. Thank you to the staff, and thank you to you guys.
Thank you, Stephen.
Here's to
Yeah.
a good second year.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you. See you later.
Down the path now and treat everybody to a beer.
Yeah, those I will. Well, yeah, I will. We need to have some beers as well. That's for sure. That's the one thing that's been missing this year is beer and biscuits. All right, see you later, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Good
night.
Thank you all. Good night.
Karen?